Welcome back to the Love Lizzy podcast. This is another solo cast. Today, we are actually going to listen to a voicemail from a woman from our community and help answer her questions. It's like a multi-part question. The theme here is, how come no one respects my boundaries? Why do I feel so unseen? And why does it feel like no one cares to meet my needs? If you're a woman, I feel like you've definitely been here. You've definitely felt these things before. So I think many of us are going to resonate. So let's go ahead and take a listen.
Hey, Love Lizzy. I have two questions that I could use some help on. So the first is that I've been dating the last year and a half, and I've had a lot of disappointments, really, because I feel like it's really hard to have a deeper connection, specifically with dating men. Last Friday, I went to lunch and drinks with a colleague who I've known for 10 years, and I explicitly said it wasn't a date, mentioned multiple times how this person was 100% a friend, and he dropped me off at my house, and then he leaned in and kissed me. And so I'm just thinking about, when I'm dating men, they're not listening to my boundaries. When I'm hanging out with men as friends, they're not listening to my boundaries. And I just feel like there's this constant feel of being objectified by men in my life, whether it's my dad being very possessive of me, whether it's guy friends thinking they could just lean in and kiss me even though I said there's no interest there, or whether it's men I'm dating treating me as if going on a date and buying me dinner buys them access to my time and to my body. How do we as women fight this overwhelming anger towards men when there's just a lack of respect and a lack of care for what I need as a human being? Because this isn't just happening in dating. This is happening with men across the board who shouldn't have any kind of romantic inclination toward me. So it makes it just really hard to feel safe around them and to feel like there's any realistic chance of having them in my life in any meaningful way. The other thing I wanted to talk about, because it might be connected, my family's going through a bit of a change. My mom is basically filing to get guardianship of my older sister who's autistic. And what keeps coming up is my parents are leaning on me for support. And it's really triggering because I felt like my family always treated me as a third parent, even from a young age, and how I always felt like that was really unfair. But I never really had a chance to express myself or to feel like I had a different role. They're putting all of the attention on my sister and expecting support from me without asking how it makes me feel, what kind of support I need. How do you draw these boundaries without feeling like you're going to be disrespecting or turning your back on people who you love, but also feeling like, well, I've been strong for you guys for my whole life. Do I get to be the person who's taken care of?
What a powerful message. First of all, the question of how to deal with the anger. I just want to first validate having your boundaries crossed in any scenario is really kind of disturbing. It creates confusion and overwhelm, and it can start to make you really question yourself. And I just want to state right here and right now that your boundaries are valid and they deserve to be respected, and you deserve the love and care that you want and need. Okay. And I think if I wanted to pull a thread from the whole question, I would say that there is a precedent in her message that perhaps she didn't really get that kind of relationship in the home. Like if she says that her dad makes her feel like he's trying to possess her, that means that her boundaries weren't met by a man very early on in her life. In the first chapter of our life, we form a lot of our coping mechanisms based on our environment. And so I just want to honor that this pattern of feeling this way is familiar, and it can also be extremely exhausting. This has been going on for her whole conscious life, and that she's felt this way for a long time. That's a lot. It also means we have an opportunity to evolve past a moment in time where her nervous system is probably stuck. Speaking from existence, I have had a nervous system stuck in the past because of big things that have happened, and there's some really beautiful work we can do to get you out of that. But first, we have to just acknowledge that what you're feeling is valid. Your anger is valid. There's kind of three ways that I want to shape this conversation. The first way is to talk about what platonic male friendship can actually look like and what you should expect from your male friends, allies, mentors, coworkers, especially when you've already established the boundary and everyone has been told what this relationship is supposed to be and why everyone is here. Once you state your boundary, the kind of people that you want to spend time with are going to respect it. Maybe they cross it one time and you course correct them, but like once is enough. When you say no, no means no. The second theme here is that you have this family dynamic, and I want to introduce to this conversation what I think will be a mind-blowing, life-altering tool. That tool is the drama triangle. Now, the drama triangle is a very powerful visual. I want you to imagine that there's like literally a triangle in front of you and you're staring at that projection of the triangle, and the positions, the points of that triangle are victim, persecutor, and rescuer. The drama triangle can exist in any relationship dynamic. It can exist between two people. It can exist in a family system. I think we can all understand what it's like to have a family member that might have more needs than other people in the family, or might need extra love and care that is like beyond the normal family construct. And it's warranted that everyone would have to focus on that person. I think many of us have had that experience, but there's a difference between all hands on deck as a family and asking another child in the family system to step up above and beyond to take care of the emotionality of that family system when they're still just a child, or as well when they're still in the world needing their parents as much as they always have. In this particular example, she's become the rescuer of the family. So someone's the victim, someone's the persecutor, and she steps in as the rescuer. Now, just learning about the drama triangle can blow your mind. I want you to just take a moment to think about what it's like to be the rescuer of the family. There's also some projections happening, and I think the reason why those projections might be occurring is because the high empathy that I hear in your voice, I feel your big heart, and I feel the instinct and almost probably natural inclination to lean in to people when they're suffering, to lean in to be helpful, to lean in to make sure that everybody's okay. And if you grew up in a family system where you're pushed into a rescuer role, you are actually going to be conditioned to believe that you have to be in the rescuer position. We have the conditional pattern, which is how you survived. And then we also just have like the human being that you are, which is someone who desires to be loving and helpful and kind and open. What we're going to attempt to do today is we're going to highlight what a male relationship actually should look like, because I think giving you a visual and a metaphor for the expectation that you should have of men that you allow into your energy and life will be very helpful as you go out in the world. I almost want you to think of this as the blueprint for how a man should treat you. And I want you to start using it as the new boundary for anyone getting your time. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to workshop how you step out of the rescuer role in your family. And to your point, which is how do I demand that my boundaries get met, or how do I get my boundaries met and my needs met without losing this relationship to the people that I love and the people in my life. At the bottom of every fear and anxiety and depression or dark period in our lives is the desire for connection, love, and belonging. You don't want to lose the magic of this family and the relationships and these people that you love wholeheartedly. I hear your desire for a partner that can step up, show up, see you, honor you, respect you. So let's just start with what you should expect from men, okay? And I love the timing of this because we have in the last few solo casts been talking about our wishes for how we were treated and like this world that we've wanted to define from the Love Lizzy perspective of like how men and women can work together and how men can be the kind of men that we know they want to be in a patriarchal world where there's also all this pressure for them to be a certain way, which inhibits them from being able to show up in a family system in the way that we would want, or as a husband, a boyfriend, a friend, a mentor. And we can excuse all that away if we want, but we're not going to do that here. What we're going to do is just paint the picture of what mentorship can look like and friendship for men can look like. Because any woman listening to this episode has been in a room where she thought she knew what the relationship was. She thought she was in a trustworthy situation, and she has been mistreated and objectified and left feeling really scared and alone. I just want to say, I'm so sorry that that happened to you with your colleague who you thought you were in a platonic safe relationship with, and you deserve better. When I was 22, right after my mom died, about 6 months, I moved to New York City. I was living with a couple of friends from college. I had no idea what I was doing. I was completely grief-stricken, and I had never lived anywhere than my hometown, which is like a small town in Indiana. And I'd been to New York one time with my mom when I was 18 on a choir trip. And I had one friend and then this other roommate who I didn't really know, but was from my alumni group. And I just packed my stuff, flew to New York. All my stuff arrived on this Queens duplex doorstep, and I started my life. And I really needed a job. Serendipitously, I get a role on The Late Show with David Letterman. I get to be a part of their Page program, but that job paid nothing. And it was only like 5 hours every day. And so even if it paid enough, there weren't enough hours to like pay my bills. So I had to get other jobs. And so I was doing all kinds of things. I was hostessing. I was volunteering to try to get exposure in the film industry. And I had this really good friend, Candace, who came over one night, and we decided to like go out in the city. And we met a DJ on a Friday. We went to his next show on a Saturday. We were like up in the DJ booth, and I had never really been to a nightclub before. And so I was kind of feeling like I just wanted to be a fly on the wall. I'm not going to get too involved in like the dancing and the party, because I'm just like, what is this place? And I meet this guy, Enzo. And I can tell for me immediately that it was platonic. He was not weird. He was not trying to get my attention. He saw me being a people watching person. And I think he also is that way. And so he was like intrigued by my curiosity. And we started this really great curiosity conversation. And I remember how safe I felt, because it did not feel romantic at all. And I was like, this guy is so interesting. He's from Montenegro. I'm having such a good time talking to him. And we ended up getting into a really deep conversation. And I revealed to him that I had just lost my mom, that I moved here. I didn't really know anyone. And he tells me that there is this guy I need to meet. Like, he's like, listen, when I moved here from Montenegro, I didn't know anybody. And I met this guy, Robert, and he saved my life. Like, he just made me find my way. He helped me find my way back to myself, and he helped me build community. And like, without Robert, I would be nothing. And so I think you should meet him. And I was like, this is a very New York moment. Like, if you've never lived in a city like New York or Chicago or LA, where people just like connect in odd places and build friendships off of like being strangers, this might feel strange to you. But after I lived in New York for a while, I realized that this is just what happens. That's like why it's New York. You know, it's like the land of opportunity. So I go to meet Enzo again a couple of weeks later so I can be introduced to Robert. And Robert is, I think at this time, like 48 or 50 years old, and he is Italian, which was a really great thing for me. I come from an Italian family. He was Italian Catholic. So it was like immediately we had the same vernacular and vocabulary and understanding of our personalities and some of our cultural traits. And I start telling him about my family, the different people in my family. He relates to some of the dynamics of that family and his own family. He shares with me about a health journey that he had after I revealed that my mom passed away from cancer. It is like a universal synchronicity connection. It is exactly how Enzo described it. I would go on to start to be kind of an apprentice to Robert. Robert didn't have the money to pay me as an employee, and I didn't have the time to give him as like a full employee because I had all these other jobs. But he was rebuilding his recording studio after the 2008 crisis, and he was trying to like put his whole music industry production back together. And I was really interested in the entertainment industry. And so a couple of nights a week, I would take the train out to Long Island, Queens, which back then was a very desolate part of New York. There was nothing, no restaurants, no commercial apartments. We were in a warehouse building in the middle of nowhere. And we were just building this recording studio. And a lot of my job was like organizing cables and what do we throw away? What do we keep? And just kind of helping him wrap his arms around this project. And every time we were together, I learned something. I learned something about myself. I learned something about the industry. I learned something about this incredible human, Robert. He bought me my first guitar. I can't even like talk about this person without crying because of how safe I was with this man. And the only way that Robert could pay me at the time was to take me to dinner. And When you are working multiple jobs and you have no money and someone can feed you, it is like life-changing. So I got to eat all these amazing restaurants that I never would have walked into. I would eat chocolate cake and I would drink limoncello, and we would talk about my mom and my grief, and he would talk about his parents, and he would talk about his journey as a human in the world, his career shifts, his education. That relationship kept me alive. Not once did Robert cross a boundary. Not once did Robert make me feel unsafe. Not once did he criticize me, objectify me, judge me, belittle me, disrespect me. It was one of the first male relationships where a man just showed up, knowing himself, accountable for himself, communicative, respectful, and just like took me under his wing and helped me learn to fly. I remember when it was time for me to leave New York City, we went to dinner. We went to this little Italian restaurant in Long Island City, and we sat across from each other. And I was so sad to leave New York for a lot of reasons, but it was also time. It was time for me to go. And I had prepared to let him know that I thought that my mom sent him to me, because I would not have survived this animal of a city and this major transition in my life. I would have never gotten the skills I got in my work and moved up so fast in my career without his mentorship. And I said to him, I was like, I believe that my mom sent you to me. And he said, oh, no. Your mother sent you to me. You saved my life. You changed my life. And that right there is the exact type of relationship that you should expect from any man in your life. That is the bare minimum bar for what male companionship should look like. That should be your expectation. That should be your boundary. And I want to tell you right now, you do not owe anybody context, explanation, apology, justification for never seeing them again when they mistreat you. I'm not saying that we don't have relationships in our lives where we're learning how to love each other, where we're learning how to understand each other, where we have an oopsie daisy and, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. We got to work on that. We have a dynamic that we've got to evolve. That is what all relationships require: communication, validation, perspective shifting, apology, accountability. Like if those things are present, you are in a loving, healthy relationship where everyone is taking accountability for their side of the street and working through the dynamics together. Okay. But if someone deliberately crosses a boundary that you explicitly set, if someone violates your physical space, if someone harasses you, makes you feel like you are not safe, that is a hell no. Okay. Good for you for recognizing that moment on that platonic evening with that mentor man colleague was a boundary cross, because it was. And I don't want you to walk away from this conversation questioning that at all. Now that you have kind of a blueprint for what male companionship should look like, I want you to kind of take that into the world. And you should leave here thinking that that's your roadmap for how you should be treated and how you should feel in every male relationship across time. Secondly, let's talk about the dynamic in your family. First of all, I want to give you permission to step out of the rescuer role right now. I have played the rescuer. I think a lot of our listeners have played the rescuer. And listen, sometimes we do need to solve a problem for the people that we love. Sometimes we need to be a sounding board. Sometimes we need to show up a little bit more than them because they're struggling. Sometimes your parents do need your help. That's normal. But positioning you in the family as their scapegoat for their emotional problems, their lack of ability to take accountability, projecting onto you any kind of role that you don't want to be in, that's not right. And I want to honor that you don't feel seen and heard, because you're not seen and heard. But the bigger question here is, are you seeing and hearing yourself? Do you see and hear you? And I don't say that because I want to blame you for them not seeing you and them continuing to put you in a rescuer role. They've got a victim persecutor dynamic. That is their dynamic. It's probably why, as you mentioned, they're not married anymore. It's probably why your mom is having to force a hand here, because there's a dynamic there for them in that relationship that they cannot get out of. And they've put you in the middle of it. So we're going to step out of their dynamic. And I think the mantra I want you to work with here is, this is not mine. And I want you to define what is yours, what you do want to carry. Maybe you want to carry love and compassion for your sister. You want to be the one person in her life that is solid, that doesn't put her in the middle of another person's argument, that doesn't make her a pawn in a game of control. That you can do. You can say, I'm willing to be there for my mom in a way that works for me, which might be like, I'm willing to take her to lunch and distract her from what's going on. I'm willing to do somatic things with her, take her to a yoga class, go dancing, something that is like not cerebral, where you're having to be a therapist, a rescuer, just somebody who is like taking emotional responsibility for what's going on in the family system. Like, I really suggest that you maybe make a list between what I want to be mine and what I no longer want to do. And let's just sit with that for a little while. Let's see what happens when we give our brain the difference on a piece of paper. Like, this is what I'm here for. This is what I can no longer do. And I wouldn't even suggest right away that you need to go have a conversation or that you need to go articulate these boundaries. I think you just start living from those boundaries within yourself, and you stop showing up for things you don't want to show up for. And when I asked you, do you see and hear yourself? I'm wondering if that hit something inside of you, because when I was doing this work, and when I do this work with women all the time about boundary setting and designing a life that you want, the thing we often forget to ask ourselves is, how do I want to feel? And you said it here, like, does anybody care about how I feel? Don't they care about how this affects me? They're so inside their stuff right now that, like, trying to get them to see you is going to potentially be an exhaustive endeavor. And maybe we ask ourselves, how could I be more visible to my own self? And I think that exercise that I gave you is a really good first step of you seeing yourself. And we have to have boundaries with ourselves in order to actually follow through on our boundaries externally. And again, if someone is harming you, mistreating you, disrespecting you, crossing your boundary when they know what it is, that's a hell no. We don't need to negotiate that. But what we can do from here is we can look at our boundaries within. What I mean by that is, are you making promises to yourself about how you're being treated and then giving people a pass? Are you saying that you want something for your life, but then doing habits that are the opposite of that, which means engaging in relationships where you're disrespected, going on dates with people when you already have a gut instinct that you don't want to be there, saying yes when you mean no, being at the mercy of other people's needs before you've met your own? Boundaries are a moving target. We grow, we evolve, we learn every day. So I want to be really clear that sometimes we have to move the line closer to ourselves for a while in order to learn how to move it back wide. For a while, you might be going a little more internal. You might be more restrictive of what you let in, what conversations you entertain, what phone calls you answer, when you answer phone calls, what you talk to your parents about or not talk about, what you allow them to bring up or not bring up. There might be a boundary that we set here in the next 30 days. So what we might do externally is we might go to our mom and dad and we might have a separate conversation with each of them that just says, hey, I recognize you're both in a difficult situation. I recognize this is really hard. And I definitely am a member of this family. But I just want to let you know that these topics are no longer on the table for me. I will talk about these things with you. I will do these things with you. I will listen to these things. But these 2 or 3 things, I don't want to hear about anymore. I don't want to feel like I have to carry that water with you. And so I'm putting the bucket down. And anytime you try to pour water in it, I'm taking the bucket off the table. I'm going to hang up the phone. I'm going to leave the house. I'm going to cancel our plans. So I'd like to learn this with you together. My relationship with you is extremely important. I value you. You mean so much to me. And in order for us to have the depth of the relationship that I'm looking for as your daughter, these are my rules of engagement. They may change. I want to let you know that I'm trying to work on some boundaries, and this is the best place for me to practice because it's where I feel like I have the most love and understanding. And so my expectation of you is that you can respect this until I change my mind. And maybe I will change my mind. Maybe there will be a day where we can talk about these things again. But until you hear from me, please just refrain from talking about these things. And if you do bring them up, I am going to remove myself from the conversation. So that's what it could look like if you want to set a new external boundary with the family. And I think that invites them to understand how meaningful they are to your life and how important these relationships are, but also validates who you are and what you need. The second thing is, I would like you to start practicing respecting yourself. I want you to say no when you mean no. I want you to listen to your inner voice and trust your instincts. If you get any kind of inclination that you don't want to go somewhere, don't want to be somewhere, need to leave a situation, don't like what you're experiencing, it's an immediate, I'm out of here. That's for you. That's for you to learn to have that internal relationship with yourself where you're the most trustworthy person in your life, because you can do that. You can be the most trustworthy person in your life. Now, I'm going to add a little bit of an extra layer here. Can you choose a friend, a family member, someone else maybe that understands the family system, that you can have be accountable with you on this? Maybe you let them know, hey, this thing's going on with me. I am realizing that I have allowed things to happen around me that I don't like. And I'm just kind of waking up to like how much people are depending on me to rescue them and carry their water. And I don't want to do that anymore. And I'm kind of scared and I don't know how to set boundaries. I don't know how to keep the boundaries with myself because I have a big heart and I find myself in these situations where I'm not being respected and cared for. And I'm trying to learn how to receive that from the world by doing that with myself. So you can ask that friend to come along with you and say, I'm going to text you when I need to draft something to one of my family members. I'm going to text you before a date and maybe just check if I still really want to go, because we shouldn't have to carry this by ourselves, and we shouldn't have to feel alone in learning how to love and respect ourselves and how to demand love and respect from others. We should do that in community. And so I really want you to invite someone else into this inner circle with you and have them help you figure this out. I also want to be really, really, really honest here, okay? Lean in on this one and listen to me carefully. There is no perfect here. There is no permanent here. This is a hypothesis that we are going to try to prove. I'm working with the hypothesis of I am healthy, I am strong, and I have all the energy I need. We're going to work with the hypothesis that I'm loved and seen and heard and respected. So I kind of want you to walk around with that costume on like I am a loved, respected, cherished woman. I get love in every relationship that I have. I feel so seen. I am so seen. I am so loved. And we're just going to start with you. We want you to love yourself. We want you to see yourself. We want you to believe that you deserve this. And that's going to be a practice because you have been in this role and you have had to perform this role to survive your family system. And that, my friend, is so normal and so human. And we are so grateful that you brought this question to the Love Lizzy community because it is such a powerful one. And I swear to you, if you begin to do this work and you begin to learn how to keep the boundaries with yourself, how to make yourself the top priority, you are going to have so much love and so much energy to give to others. And it's going to be reciprocal. You might even start to meet people in your life that you've never met before. You might stumble upon your own Robert or Enzo. You might find a great boyfriend who's ready and willing and mature and respectful and loving and kind and thoughtful. And he might just stumble into your life without you even looking because you have gotten to the place where you understand what you deserve and you demand it from the universe. But we have to do those three things. We have to first say hell no to people that cannot meet the threshold of how we want to be treated. Second, we have to make the list. What do I want to show up for? And what am I not willing to show up for anymore? And then we have to practice those internal boundaries with ourselves and with the support of a friend. Hopefully this little solo cast was a good answer to your question. We would love to hear how it's going. So if you do take action on any of these exercises, let us know on Instagram, shoot us an email, call the hotline, let us know how it's going. We are so proud of you for coming here with this question and being so vulnerable with the Love Lizzy community. Thank you for this service to the other women who are a part of this space and that need to hear these things and know that they're not alone. So until next time, I am healthy. I am strong. I have all the energy I need. Thank you for being here. See you next time. This podcast is produced by Love Lizzy. Our editor is Kayla Hill, and the music is by my very own sister, Julia Sabatine. If you like what you heard here, we would love for you to hit the subscribe button. See you next time.